I'm very excited to be here. I have actually DJed in this very room many years ago during a bad snowstorm. So I'm going to introduce my colleagues on this panel, this esteemed panel, and we're going to just talk a little bit. And I've been told the best part comes when you guys ask questions. So we're going to share our lived experiences a little bit, and then we'll hear from you. So Viviana Benitez, performing arts producer at BRIC, right here, is a performing arts producer and curator. Viviana's work over the past decade within the performing arts and music industry has included roles from artist, manager, record producer, festival producer. Next to Viviana is Xavier X. Jernigan.
Oh, wow. I'm black from America, so it's Jernigan.
Okay.
You made it. Ooh, that was fancy. I like that.
All right. He is the voice of Spotify, head of cultural partnerships, Spotify.
What's up, y'all? Much respect. Thank you. Thank you for the love.
Because Spotify has developed an app that is destined to put me out of business. Just kidding. Is a voice and personality behind the world's first AI DJ, Spotify newly launched feature that's already changing the world. But that's the tip of the iceberg. X has interviewed the biggest celebrities in the world, is part of many organizations, and we'd be here till tomorrow if we kept listing them. And down the line, we have a very important person, a person that plays a very, very, very important role in this business, sometimes known as the good cop and the bad cop. And this is Michelle Marinez, music agent, and from Creative Arts Agency, also known as CAA, where she's worked with diverse roster of established and upcoming artists, as well as serving entire department roster for college bookings. She's from Penn State, 2016, took on digital marketing internship at Atlantic Records. The rest is history. And then we have a veteran and former colleague of mine, which I realize we overlapped at Clive Davis, is Richard Barone, who just has a new book out. You want to show the book? Do you have the book with you? Richard Barone teaches at the New School. And
I teach music and revolution at the New School.
Music and revolution. That's amazing. Richard Barone is a recording artist, performer, producer, professor, author, pioneering the indie rock scene in Hoboken, New Jersey, frontman of the Bongos. Barone has worked with artists in every musical genre: Donovan, Lou Reed, folk legend Pete Seeger. He's produced concerts and events all over the planet, and this is his new book. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to ask everyone to explain why you're here, in the sense of you were a music industry professional, and how did you get your start? So, I'm just going to go left to right. To my left, go for it.
Hi, everyone. Viviana, producer here at BRIC. And I would say I got my start somewhere around 2010. Prior to that, I had gotten a master's in education, and I was in the education field for about 7 years. And I just got tired of it. I just felt like I was hitting a wall, and I quit my job in education. I had no plans. My friend, who was just starting a band, said to me, "Do you want to manage my band?" And I said, "Sure. What does that mean?" And so we embarked on a journey, which, we say we got a PhD in the music business. It's a band called Maku Sound System, and it was at that time it was like a 12-piece band, which, if you're an aspiring musician, I'd recommend, to rethink that as a starting band. CAA might say the same thing. Yeah, a lot of cost involved, and we always say, we had nobody was a trust fund kid. We were all mainly children of immigrants or immigrants ourselves, and a lot of struggles. Some of the artists didn't even have, weren't even legal. So we faced a lot, we learned a lot, both artistically, legally. But I stayed with that band pretty much up until the pandemic. But there was, at one point I was advancing a show, which means that I was talking to a venue about the logistics of the show. And we had a tour planned, and I had a lot of shows to advance, and this one was like 2 months out, which for me was, as a manager, like way too early to advance. And so I said, "Why are you pressuring me? I need to prioritize, and I can't prioritize your show right now." And she said to me, "Well, I'm quitting my job, and I need to organize things before I go." And at that time, I was needing some extra cash, so like I went, ding, I can do her job as a producer. I'm doing everything that she's doing just on the artist side of things. And so I applied to the job. 4 months later, 4 interviews later, I got the job. And that was as the associate producer at Lincoln Center. And so I just produced there for about 5 years. And now I'm here since 2021. So that's a little bit about my story, and we can talk more about it throughout the night.
It's awesome. Show us some love. So how'd I get here? I took an Uber Black. Black because I can expense it. Spotify will pay for it. I'm not paying for it. Spotify's paying for it. But hey, y'all, I'm glad to be here. I got here because I was born to do this. I was born into this. How many of y'all can relate to that? Y'all feel like y'all were born to do this? That's me. Y'all just like me. And I felt like from birth that I was meant to work in music, meant to work in entertainment. I knew some people worked in it because I read the credits. Back when you bought albums, people are buying vinyl again, so that's good. But back when you bought albums, I was like, these people work in it, so I can do it too. I'm from Daytona Beach, Florida, born and raised. And back then especially, so spring break, Daytona Beach is spring break and NASCAR. MTV used to come down, had the dopest concerts. BET would come down. Y'all used to watch it, right? Come down, all the biggest artists, we used to skip school, go across the river and go to these concerts. We knew the hotels they would stay in. Me and my boys would sneak in the hotels just so we could meet the artists, meet them on the elevator, say what's up. So I met like Biggie and Puffy. I'm telling you, I'm not making this up. Outkast, like you name it. And it made me feel that it was attainable. Because if they're coming down to my hometown, the people that I idolize, my musical heroes, then it's possible for me to do it. For me, the route was going through education. Like, okay, I live 1,000 miles. My hometown is 1,000 miles south on 95 of Brooklyn. So how do I get to New York? And how do I get in this business? I don't know anybody in New York. How do I do it? For me, it was through school. So I got an MBA. I'm an HBCU graduate, HBCU pride all day, FAMU, Florida A&M University. So I went to FAMU. I did a 5-year MBA. So my thing was, and I mapped all this out, I'm talking about in high school. I used to tell everybody, speak things into existence. I'm telling y'all, I'm a product of saying it out loud, of what I'm gonna do. And I was the person in high school, y'all know that person, who always told you about, I know that was you, Richard, like telling them about like what to check out, what are you listening to, what's the next artist that's blowing up, all of that. That was me. So I knew there was a space for me looking at these MTV VJs and radio DJs, people like you. So like, I knew there was a path for me. So I went to school, did that, and my thing was I'm gonna use this education to get on the business side of it, and I'm gonna parlay that some kind of way. So I did that. I ended up getting in New York through, I'm talking about a regular suit and tie job every day at Arm & Hammer. That's what I did. Had nothing to do with music, but any of my downtime, I listened to music and I went and I Googled and I looked up like information about the artist, parlayed that, went to NYU's music business program. So you got a PhD in music business. I got a Master of Arts in music business from NYU. So I used that, and then my first job was Diddy's personal assistant. The rest is history. It's a long story. I'm gonna give you that right now so we can get to the rest of the people, but that's how I got in it.
Well, I think we were the same person in high school, so let's start there. I always knew I wanted to work in the music industry. In high school, I was following my favorite artists wherever they would go, and I just remember thinking to myself, seeing their managers with them, that's what I want to do. I'm going to figure out what they do, however I can get there, that's what I want to do for them. So I went to school at Penn State. I studied public relations, and for me, I was a really good writer. I was really good in English, but I had no idea music business programs even existed, honestly. Same. I don't think Penn State offered that. If they did, I was under a rock, didn't know about it. And so I was going to school for a typical PR degree, studied entrepreneurship as a minor, and my thinking with that degree was I want to help tell artist stories. I want to take an artist who's developing and help them tell their story. And so for me, the logical thing was writing, doing publicity, putting whatever out there. So I took internships throughout college, and this program, by the way, guys, is incredible. I wish I had something like this when I was in school. And then finally I graduated, and I think like every one of us knows, the music industry, these jobs open up when someone gets promoted or they leave. They're not like your friends that are in finance where they get jobs 6 months out and they're set and they graduate with a job. I graduated with no job. Lived with my parents, got jobs at random public relations firms for like beauty, and I was like, I don't want this, I don't want this. I had previously interned at Sony, a bunch of other music companies, but again, there were really no openings yet. And one day, it was raining, and I didn't want to walk in the rain anymore. Walked into a bar, ran into this girl who was my RA on my sorority floor in school. She asked me what I was doing. I said, I don't know, I'm trying to get into the music industry. She was like, that's so funny. My friend just posted on Facebook, he's looking for an intern. He works at Atlantic Records, but he does digital marketing. Would you want to do that? I said, absolutely. And so I applied, and the only way you can take an internship is for credit, and I had already graduated. So I took that as an okay, figure it out moment, not an okay, you're cut out of it. And I re-enrolled as a non-degree student at a local school. Much to my parents, they did not like that because you have to pay for credits, just so I could take this internship. Because I had graduated, I didn't really have classes, so I literally had all the time in the world to put in my all to this internship. I came in when they told me not to. I was doing things above and beyond, and I think standing out as an intern and doing that and really showing up and not just taking, what they give you and just doing it, thinking outside the box and going above and beyond is, how you stand out. I ended up getting hired out of that internship in the digital marketing department, but also in the publicity department. And I went back to I want to do PR, so I went into publicity. I quickly learned I didn't like that, but that's not to say, it's a great position. It just wasn't for me. So I went over to the agency side where I started at ICM Partners working for the head of the department. Worked my way up there and got promoted to agent, and then came over to CAA, and that's currently where I am.
So what a great story, and really, what a great panel. Really interesting stories. And the agent is such an important job. I started at 7 years old. I was obsessed with listening to the radio. And I talked my mother into bringing me over to some event that a live DJ was doing. They were doing a live broadcast in Tampa, Florida. I'm also from Florida. And they were doing a broadcast from the beach, right? They would do this. This is a Florida thing, I guess. And it was a top 40 station. And my mom introduced me to this is my son. I talked to the DJ who was my favorite DJ. And they gave me a job, actually. They put me on the air then, and they asked me to come back every Sunday. And I had a spot called Beach Party, in which I was 7 years old spinning records. That was started an obsession. You're talking about reading liner notes and learning credits. I would, look at these records. They'd send me records every week to play. And I got obsessed with learning who made the records, not just the musicians, but the producers, engineers, designers, labels themselves. And I knew that's what I wanted to do at age 7. So that the radio station gave me, it was WALT AM radio station in Tampa, Florida. By being part of the station, I got to meet artists as they came through town. So I wanted to meet anyone and everyone. And by the time I was 16, I started producing some artists that were known. In fact, I made some pretty cool records back then, I think. But I thought I was going to be a producer only. But I knew that I needed to be in New York City and not Tampa, Florida. So I went to school, but I was studying film and film music. But as soon as I could, I met a band that was coming through town. Actually, they were members of the Monkees, the group that was a 60s group, but they were like on a resurgent, they were like coming back around in a nostalgia kind of circuit. Somehow, I got invited by their backing band to come to live in Brooklyn for a while. And I did, and I met musicians. I started a band called the Bongos, which we took off. We had a good sound. It was punk, but it was a dance sound, and we had a good sound, and we got signed to RCA Records after a short stint at a British indie. And this was a new field. This was the beginning of the college radio movement, the beginning of alternative music. What they called alternative was still college rock at the moment. That's how I got, through that band, I toured the United States with my agent, which was William Morris, actually, which was part of Premier Talent before they merged. I loved my agent. We played 300 shows a year, solid for 7 years. I played everywhere, every college, and everywhere in between. I got to meet a lot of artists. I got to work with people like Quincy Jones, and I produced an album for his daughter. Worked with such a variety of artists over the years. I eventually became a solo artist. I still produce. I wanted to teach, so I started teaching at the Clive Davis Institute, which you mentioned, and I love that there. But now I'm at the new school. I teach improvisation, and some of my students are here, and it's great to see them. And we teaching improvisation ensembles, which I love. And also in the fall, I teach Music and Revolution, which is my second book. My first book is Frontman. It's my memoir as a member of the Bongos, and it's a different story completely. Is that good?
That's great.
Okay.
And of course, you can delve deeper into their individual stories. How many people here are artists? Okay. How many people here are interested in the business but are not primarily artists? Okay. I see like more artists, but as an artist, you still have to you are a business if you are going to survive in this capitalist world, which we do. So I guess what I want to ask you, ask the panel is, some of you knew, it seemed like part of your beginnings were a desire within and an opportunity that you came across because you put it out there. Personally speaking, I did not ever think I would be in the music business professionally. I think because of my immigrant parents, I did not see this as a career, and I always, I quote The Godfather as like, every time I try to leave, they keep putting me back. I even went to grad school, thought I would go in a different direction, and then the pandemic happened, and here I am. But everyone's journey is different. My love for music was great, and I think you need a passion. But a lot of people say things like, follow your passion, and passion gets you, and do what's passionate. And I think that's neoliberal garbage. Because I think that the reality of passion is you have to make the connection from what you want to do to getting to the job or the place. So one of the things that is often offered, I would say, is the idea of networking. And what does that mean to you? And how do you think that students, what is the best approach, do you think? And, feel free to talk about what news you read, what organizations you think are useful, anything in your particular world. Since we cover so many different aspects of the business, we've got, a programmer, person in technology and host, an artist, teacher, and as well as an agent. So, I think that's the question here is like, what does networking mean to you, and how would you encourage students to access what that means?
Oh, and I'll start and just say, because I was coming from the field of education, it's like, who do I know in music? Nobody. But the truth is, you just don't know who you know, right? And that's the truth. And so everything in life, whether it's music or not, is built upon relationships. And so really it's about that moment at the bar, that coffee with a friend, helping that person in your church, whatever it is, it's like taking the time to make an actual connection with a human being. Despite all the technology advancements, like at the end of the day, we are human, and we have this beautiful ability to talk and communicate with one another. And so I would just always remind you to never lose sight of that, you might not know that person at the top at the moment, but like, use what you have. We all have some sort of social capital that can help us in our life, no matter what it is. So that's just like my general advice is, make deep relationships with people, care for people, listen to people.
Connect next to you. Like a lot of times you come to these things, get your knowledge, and they're focused on maybe us. It ain't but so much we can do for y'all other than give you some advice and tell you about our journeys. You know what I mean? We ain't all got like 30 jobs just like open it. I'm just keeping it a buck because I sat in things like this. The networking should happen side to side. That's where you make your connections. Because she has a story about running into a bar. When I was at Bad Boy, I stepped outside to go get lunch. I had to go to the ATM. My man from NYU, who I was in classes with, he was the one that told me it was a spot open because he knew what I was doing at Bad Boy, digital marketing as well. And he was like, yo, it's a spot over here. That's how I got the interview and got it. So all my stuff really happened with people next to me. So focus on the people next to you. Y'all meet each other in this room. A lot of y'all go to different schools. Half of the room I saw by show of hands were artists. Others were people who want to be in the business. That means y'all need to work together and blow each other up. So focus side to side. Don't focus on like just somebody you see in the news or in press. Like that's great. Say what's up, please. But focus on each other, because I'm telling you, a lot of my people are now in certain spots. And it's people who said my name in rooms that I wasn't in. That's why I'm here today. And y'all are gonna be the ones who say each other's names in rooms that they're not in and bring you the opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, to echo that, you guys, no matter what career path you end up on, you're all going to be growing up together in the industry. These are going to be the people that you look to for, when you want to sign the next act, or you want to, you need some help at a label or whatever it is. These are going to be the people that you rely on. And yeah, I mean, just making the most of every interaction that you have and making it genuine and not just like you're a tally mark on my checklist of where I need to get to. Really have a conversation. And to go back to your point about passion, you can be passionate, but the passion is what makes you have these conversations. It's what you do with that afterwards that really matters. So just being mindful, not just being transactional, I would say.
I got to add something because it's on my heart. Don't look at each other as competition. That's the mistake that people make. Be kind to each other, form a real connection. I'm telling you, it's purpose in forming these connections. But do not make the mistake of looking at each other as competition.
Music is a mission, not a competition.
You're advocates for each other.
And
you can build together. You can learn from each other. You can be inspired by each other. But don't look at the next man, woman, person, they or them as competition. That is a mistake.
Sure, it's collaborative. And I think with music, especially in limited genres, the competition comes out of a fear of scarcity, a fear of a lack of opportunity. And I mean, that's where it comes from, especially if you're in a unique genre or you're doing something new. And the be nice to people is really important. I say be nice to people, but don't work with people that are, I make a rule if I want to be treated properly, and sometimes that's hard because there are gatekeepers and people in power. But you will see that people that, were the intern here will slowly rise. And as you build those networks and those relationships, you will grow with them, and that's really important. It's like when you're in film school, you have to work on everyone's film, and then they work on your film. If you're making a record, there's a lot of things to make a track. So that's really important.
Like you could choose your collaborators carefully, but collaboration is a key to success in so many ways. So your collaborators could be right around you all the time, anytime. And some of my most successful records are collaborations with others, and sometimes unlikely collaborations. And when you talk about passion too, in a way, you hinted at something. You were talking about it's not just artistry, it's business. And having a passion but it's okay, you can have a passion for that too. Yeah. You can have a passion for, making your business work. Learning early on, when I was starting out, it was the beginning of the indie movement, as I was saying. And we had to run our label in the US because it was a British label. And we had to run the American wing of it. I wasn't even 20 yet. So I was 19 and we were running a label. It was a cool label too. And we would have to do our own marketing. We had to put it together for ourselves. And I learned a lot. Before we signed to RCA, we spent a year or two on an indie label. That was a very good experience, learning how to do the different aspects of the music industry besides the performance or the songwriting.
My critique on the follow your passion is, of course we want to be passionate, but I think there's a underneath the passion part is the privilege to be passionate, and I think that's where my critique comes in. And like you had a DIY band of 12 people, some of them were undocumented, different challenges. It's like the how do you negotiate the day job, the school, the work, all of that. It's not like you don't, it's negotiating all of those things together and making choices around how to create an artistic life. We have a lot of jobs, some of us on our resumes, because we're putting it all together and we're doing different things. And some of us, 30 years in, where I do a lot of different things to make the pie whole, monetarily, creatively, et cetera, and for the community as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to tack on like the element of business artistry, but then there's knowledge. Like for us, we were so into like movements that had happened in New York City, just knowing like the history of salsa, the hip hop that came out of New York. And so we started a book club within the band, and we read Exodus. It was a story about Bob Marley. We read Fela's book because we saw these artists as like creating these movements and these groups, and we were so inspired by those artists, and we wanted to know how they did what they did. And the history of hip hop, there's so much out there, and it's just an incredible story. So like all of that really motivated us, and we wanted to learn more. And like you guys said, like liner notes, it's incredible. Like if you dig deep in one album and you can just go down a rabbit hole, and I would definitely advise that, like that's part of your passion. Like what makes you want to learn more and go down that path, because you will find your people who are nerding out on something.
I want to give you another side to the thing I said about the competition, right? And the being kind and being nice to people, right? So, I'm working on something right now that's blowing up, right? Just to keep it honest, right? It's a lot of people listening to it.
No big deal.
Numbers are crazy. Numbers are crazy. It's through the roof. So people who weren't kind to me, everybody wasn't kind to me. And I'm a nice guy. I'm a really nice guy. Don't I seem like a nice guy?
How you
I'm
like
a nice
me now?
guy. Yeah. A lot of people are hitting me up that weren't nice to me. Mm-hmm. Whose text do you think get responded to first or not at all? Or emails that get sent to me later or not at all? And it ain't even on some get back. But I'm not going to collaborate with anybody that's not good for me.
And you know what? Some of the same people that you see along the road, you're going to see them again. I've worked with people. I've been at several record labels, and I've worked with the same people in rotation because they move around.
Yep.
And then that's one thing to learn, to create the relationships, and really beyond that, I would say create friendships.
That's right.
Because you're going to see them again. I mean, I've worked with agents,
you can guarantee it.
Record label people. It's a small industry, really. In some ways.
It is.
Or it seems like it.
Yeah.
Because it's the same people, And so you have to always be aware of that. That's very true. And friendships go a long way in the music industry. That's who you want to work with, your friends and your people that you've had good relationships with.
Yeah.
And not to be the cliche in the room, but people aren't going to remember what you said. They're going to remember how you made them feel.
Absolutely.
And so my biggest piece of advice is, if you have a question, if you are genuinely trying to understand or move forward, no one is going to fault you for that. Don't ever think that it's a dumb question or you should know this. Because I show up to work every day and I'll be super vulnerable about it. There's sometimes where I'm I need to figure this out. And I lean on my colleagues and I lean on people that I've worked with in the past to figure out the solution to a problem. And it's because of the relationships that I've built that I'm able to do that, because they know that if they ever needed something, I'm also going to be there for them.
Yeah.
It literally can stop opportunities if you haven't done that. Mm-hmm. You should be able to pick up the phone and say, I have this idea for something.
Absolutely.
And someone will, if you don't have those friendships, who are you going to call? Mm-hmm. You have to create them.
And in the case of if we just take two aspects of the music business in very blanket terms of the recording process and the live process, let's just break it down for argument's sake. There are so many chains of communication that have to happen. If I had a nickel for every time someone's setting up my equipment and they said, well, I never saw your rider, even with the recording process, we didn't know something with the publicity. There are a lot of chains of communication. And I'd put out a mix CD. I went into a PR agency that I knew, and I said, listen to this. And the person who burned the promo CDs put seconds of silence between each song. it defeats the point of a mixed CD. You know, and I could get really angry or mad, or know that that person probably didn't make enough money to man the desk, and we're probably doing 3 different things. So, you know, in terms of kindness is like, you know, there's also like generosity and grace around the way. So there are a lot of things that happen in terms of chains of command between booking and artists showing up and whatever, et cetera. So, you know, since you alluded to this, this project, it brings us to the point of, outside of live and recording, technology. And there's this idea that anyone can make it, anyone can do like, you know, you can just, it's open access. You just put your music on and whatever. What are your feelings around that in terms of access, people's ability to access audience? Let's just focus it on that.
Everybody has equal opportunity now. Before, it was really about gatekeepers. So when I was coming up in the business, like when we were all coming up, it was really about gatekeepers, and you did need to get to that person. You had to make a demo, and then you had to find out a studio to record in, and it was a very physical process with all these different people that you had to get yeses from, because entertainment as a whole is a no business. It's designed to weed people out. And really, only the strong survive, and I mean strong-willed survive. Like, if you really want to make a living in this, you got to keep going. You got to keep on going. Even when you just like want to quit and just go get a regular job, you got to keep going. But what technology has done, now this is what the music industry has messed up on in the past. They controlled, and it's important to understand the historical context to understand where we are right now. Historically, the record labels controlled all the different technologies. For example, vinyl, when it went to 8-track. So they can make you buy the whole catalog you already owned and buy it all over again. And then they make a whole wave of money just on catalog alone, because they said, we're gonna change the technology. So now you gotta buy the thing to play it in, now you gotta buy the new version of it, and then cassettes came. And then CDs came. CDs were able to be uploaded and then digitized into MP3s. Oh, you didn't have to pay for that. And then somebody figured out, we can just upload it for free in file sharing. And this is the thing they don't tell about when they tell the story of technology. They just tried to tell the story of all these people that are stealing. I was around enough to tell you the problem was, back in the day in the 90s and before, you used to be able to buy singles, one song that you liked with the B-side and instrumentals. Remember that? So you see how happy she got just thinking about buying the one song you wanted? What record labels did in the 90s, they eliminated singles. And they tried to make you buy a whole album for that one song you like, and threw out a whole garbage album to buy 1, maybe 2 songs you like.
Or a CD single for like half the price of the album.
Right. And then they eliminated that option. So when file sharing came into play, people didn't feel like it was stealing, because it's like, I can't even, you're not giving me the option to buy the one song I want to buy. Now, the music industry lost control of technology. Technology like leapfrogged over the music industry, and this is going somewhere. But I wanted y'all, because you're mainly students, to understand historical context. They don't tell that. So what happened was the music industry started suing people and trying to block people from the technology that the people are saying, this is how we listen now. So what ended up happening, instead of the music industry coming up with a solution for and putting their heads together, a tech company, Apple, came up with the solution. Settled on a price. It was a random price, 99 cents. Oh, that sounds good.
That was
cool.
And that was based on, there was a company called Music Boulevard that came just before Apple.
Right.
SBK Records. N2K Records.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know what that was?
No.
That was the predecessor of iTunes, and they had 99-cent singles.
And see, and then they matched that, right?
They matched it. And
so then that
was,
came out.
Simplicity.
See, that came out, but now tech rules instead of the music industry, and the music industry had to figure out how to work with the tech companies. So for me, I'm like, man, record labels don't innovate anymore. The tech companies are coming up with the solutions, and those solutions are based on what the people are saying they want. That's where the
True,
innovations are. So for me, go ahead, throw it in there.
The music industry owns the IP.
They do, but that's why you got to work
the IP,
together.
the intellectual property.
Well, that's
and
a beautiful.
That's why they're always fighting.
That is why they're always fighting. But for me, I'm excited about working on the innovation side. For somebody like me that was an artist, still, I'm always going to be an artist, right? I'm always thinking about lyrics. I'm always like, I performed like all around New York City at different college campuses. But for me, longevity meant going on the business side. But then that morphed to me being a creator, because podcasts exist now. So this technology moves so fast. I got to Spotify in 2016. We had 3 podcasts. Now we're the leader in it. And now we have this AI DJ, me, hey, and now I get to voice this amazing AI technology. So for me, what technology does is it opens doors and it democratizes the business and weeds out gatekeepers.
100% disagree. But
Let's start this debate.
Disagree.
We could, no, please bring it up. I think it's, bring it up. We could debate.
I also worked at Spotify. I consulted for Spotify, and we were. I was on the team that was launching the Indian market, and the scariest part about launching that market was one of the biggest labels in India is called T-Series. They actually have the most YouTube views of any entity on YouTube. And they're notoriously, let's just say, challenging to deal with across the board. In the fact, my friend toured India and they were shutting DJs down at weddings for playing their songs. And I think that the reality of the music business is the layer behind the idea. Is like when there is an artist, when you think something is organic, it may not be organic. There may be something behind that organicness. So though that those opportunities are theoretically open, with Spotify and podcasting, yes, they threw a lot of money at podcasting, but we could dive into like, they are number one in podcasting. They spent a lot of resources on that. But I just think that, let's not, there is still an industry behind pop and art making. There
Absolutely.
is an industry.
Yeah.
And so
we don't disagree on that.
The people who get access to the gatekeeping looks different maybe, but the people who get access to getting that support, being in those rooms, and that is also like, it mimics the challenges of the world around us, I think.
Well,
so just to move on, I just want to keep it going. We only have a few more minutes before we open it up.
You can't
Just
throw
so
that out there and then try to move it on.
right.
Moderator.
I just wanna-
You can,
We can keep,
I
I
host
just
for a
want to
living.
give everyone a share, but go
Okay.
ahead. We can.
No,
I'm happy
it's
to
not even a debate.
have
I think-
a conversation with you after as well and get deeper in it.
I'm going to
I
have an
would
Uber
say
Black
that not
after.
all platforms are made equally either.
No,
Yes.
what I'm saying is this. This is what I'm saying, just so it doesn't get lost. More people can make music now than ever
Yes,
before.
100%.
Anybody in here can go home right on their
Yes.
laptop. That's what I mean about
that is
technology.
100%
Now,
true.
is everybody going to be the number one artist? It's not possible. And of course, there are mechanisms behind it.
No,
but
no.
what I'm saying is gates have opened in terms of people having access instead of having to pay for studio time
No,
like back in the day and these
100%.
things.
Creating the art is easier.
Yeah.
Getting people to listen to it is probably just
That's
as challenging.
discoverability and getting people to listen is always going to be the biggest challenge
Yes, that is.
any artist has.
Yeah,
and no
it's-
one is
the
ever going to
market
have
is so saturated
Exactly.
because of the digital.
100,000 songs come out a day if y'all don't know.
But just
on
before
Spotify.
digital
A
even
day.
happened, one thing, people had mixtapes.
Yeah.
And mixtapes got the industry all shook up too because they put stickers saying home
Yes.
taping is killing music.
Yeah.
And with the skull and crossbones, trying to get people not to make mixtapes. So there's always this fight, this struggle between technology and the music industry. It's always moving from the Edison discs when it was like on cylinders
Yes.
to
Well,
vinyl to whatever it's going to be
That's why
next.
we have publishing
Yeah.
rights because of sheet music, because the fear
Right.
that sheet music would be outdated.
Right. It's just that
Or,
digital made it wide open.
I was temping in my early days. Sony 550 doesn't exist anymore. In the same building, there are people making technology to make copying music easier, and there's another people on the floor fighting those people in the same company. That's the music business. So, Michelle, before we go on to Q&A, because there's college in your bio, we can't ignore that you are a college booker. Can you describe a little bit about what you do, and if you're a band, how do you select, explain what you do in the college booking arena, exactly.
Yeah, it's definitely a mixed bag. So some schools will have, and I'm talking mainly about the student booking organizations on campus that book the main main shows. Some of them have crazy big budgets. They have these semester or year events that they do every year. It's huge. Other schools will have smaller budgets, or they'll have multiple smaller budgets because they can't really afford that one big artist that they want. I work with everyone. I work with all of it. We have artists who are at every single level that will gladly play for the college market. The positives of being an artist playing for a college is the college space is a very forgiving audience. And what I mean by that is, and I'm sure you guys are well aware, when an artist comes to your school, that's exciting. That is something that you're probably seeing them before they really break, or if you're seeing them at the top, where they're at their rise right now, you feel like you are first in line for this artist, and you feel like you got in first, and you have that special connection, and those audiences tend to grow with that artist over time, and they really become these organic, actual fans of this act. So for an artist that's choosing what college or what not college, there really is no choosing. It's really based on budget and, if an artist can afford to come, like you were saying.
So you're only booking artists that are under your roster, right?
Yes.
And do the colleges ask you, the colleges ask you, we want to book your artist, or do you pitch as well?
Both. So
Okay.
I'll have some schools come to me and say, hey, we have a wish list of X, Y, and Z. My first question is, what's your budget and what's the date? And I know that's, but it's true, because sometimes, you may ask for a Harry Styles of the world and you've got $100K. Okay, well, you're not going to afford him, but I can tell you who you might be interested in that's at the budget level. So I love when that happens, honestly, because I love being able to plug in new artists that maybe they weren't thinking of right off the bat. And then when I'm going to pitch acts, I know, especially if they have a new project coming or if they've got a tour coming up, it's a little bit two-sided. So one, if we can find something to plug in while you're on tour, that is amazing. That's best case scenario. It routes, it's perfect. Life's not always that perfect. But if a school, if I know that they've got a project coming, I'll say, hey, this is what's dropping. You kind of get the inside information on this. Book this artist now because you're not going to be able to afford it next semester.
Yeah, and it happens, right? Artists are on the come up, they get booked. I remember the year, Cardi B was playing Knockdown Center at the same time her album dropped,
Yeah.
New Year's Eve. Do you remember that? Because she was part of Venus X's party, because she was part of that community. So fortuitous, it is true. Rates go up as artists' popularity soars.
And not just popularity too, it usually has to do with, as they become bigger, their show gets bigger. So they've got more personnel to pay on the road. They've got more production. They've got the band to pay. And so it's not, sometimes people and sometimes schools, especially if I'm dealing directly with students, it's a learning process and they don't understand why an artist costs so much. It's not an ego thing. It's really just to pay people salaries.
I have one question. Do you ever pitch a up-and-coming act? If you have a major act that's on the road during colleges, do you ever pitch? Can you suggest a young act that's just starting out to be opening, a support act?
Oh yeah, we do that all the time. It's great when we have, I have the headliner and then I'll pitch the support act. For example, T-Pain right now, crushing it in the college market. He's got an act, Nando, on his label, and we've been putting Nando on as support on all these T-Pain shows. And that's really the beauty of having an artist who also, wants to bring another act on. And even if they don't, we, as an agent to many artists, I will say, this is a great fit. Let's add this artist on here.
And this is creativity, this is curation, this is seeing what works for everyone involved, not just the show itself, the personnel getting along. And so even in the business side, even though business sounds very cold, there is a lot of art behind it, I would say. So we're going to go to Q&A, but everybody, one word, if you had to hire somebody, or one quality, round robin, of people will say, what do you look for in an intern? Well, give me one word. Let's start with Richard.
Because it's your favorite word.
What?
Passion.
Okay.
Because I really, I want somebody who really wants to do it.
What
really,
if they're
you can feel
passionate
it.
and they screw up everything?
That's another story. But passion, with drive and intelligence and it's I have a view of passion that's maybe a little more specific.
I know.
You know what I'm saying. But yeah, I would look for that, I think.
I'm a contrarian for fun.
I like that.
Go ahead, Michelle.
I mean, I would say that. So I'm breaking the rules. Not one word, but passion in the sense of you're going above and beyond what I'm just asking you for, and you're thinking critically about what's going on, and not just getting through the day to get through the day.
Okay.
Hunger. Be hungry. Don't forget why you're trying to do this. Don't forget the dreams, but stay hungry no matter what.
Yeah, I guess I would say curious. Love somebody who asks questions and not afraid to make a mistake and follow up with the question. I just think staying curious is really important as you're learning.
All right.
What about you?
I don't know. That's a tough question. I'm trying to think. I've had every kind of person work for me, and I feel like I think I would say like values, personal values, like ethics or something, like not be shady.
That's more than one word.
Exactly. Exactly. Everyone had many people had more than one word. All right. So I would say ethics. That is one word. All right. So we're going to take questions. And just a reminder, questions, not statements, brief to the point. I will intercede if we can't do that, because we want to get to as many people as possible. And if you have a specific question for somebody, please address them and identify what college you're from or how you're affiliated. Go ahead.
I'm Michael. Thank you guys for coming. I recently completed a fellowship at the Center for Communication, and I'm looking for a job currently. I'm also an artist, and I think because I'm in a transitional period 9 to 5 wise, I'm also feeling a bit inspired to reshape how I've approached my music. So I guess I'm wondering, in terms of performing and marketing, what are some first steps that I could take currently in this new phase of my career?
Is that addressed to anyone in particular?
No, whoever wants to go ahead.
Marketing yourself as an artist now?
Yeah,
Are you performing now?
trying to do that more. And
You have to start doing it. Sometimes I've taught classes where the students are holding back and I'm not ready yet. And I think you just have to be ready and just do it.
Yeah, I second that.
You just have to jump in and perform, because otherwise, you can't wait.
Yeah. The experience of performing really informs the music. So that's one aspect. I would say just some basics is like make sure you have your artist name, like URLs, your IG, all the thing.
Yes.
Find a way for people to contact you easily. Be organic in how you present yourself and your music and your persona. That's a start, and just build,
Very cool.
And I will add, don't accept lesser quality because it's you. Like, judge your music how you judge other music. People start making music and then they'll play it for you. You're like, this quality, like in this day and age, shouldn't be lower than anything that's out there.
Yeah.
Don't accept that for you.
Yeah.
Like, so make sure the quality, like play it, make a playlist of music and artists you like and put your song in the middle of that and see where it lands for you. And if it hits, then go for it.
And put out your best stuff, you know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Like, don't
course.
overdo it. You don't need to do like long,
Yeah.
you just keep it the best you got.
Yeah. All right, cool. I'm gonna go home and Google some open mics. Thank y'all.
Do that.
Do it.
You
Open
got
mics.
this.
All right, we'll go to this side.
Hi everyone, thank you all so much for this panel. My name is Ekwa, I'm a DJ and podcaster as well, so
We can talk.
shout out. But yes, I wanted to know more in terms of how you dealt with a period of imposter syndrome or feeling overwhelmed by the dream. Because it's one thing to know the dream, but then once you get in the dream, it's like, how do you make sure you maintain and keep what you have? Because I think that's something that we may all face or are currently facing, so I'd love to know. Thank you.
I think all of us, I don't want to speak for everyone, but we probably all feel like that at some point or another. I know, the music industry is interesting because yes, there's schools for music, but not everyone really went to school for the job that you're going to have. And so everyone is kind of learning as they go. No matter how many years you've been in the industry, something new is happening all the time. So I would say just know that, as long as you have an open mind and you have, the will to keep going, don't think about, oh, maybe I'm not good enough, because you are. Everyone's learning.
If they ask you to be in a room, it's because they asked you to be in a room. So I'm not an imposter syndrome person. I believe, I know it's a thing. I know they talk about it. I don't believe it. Because if they ask me to do something, the first thing I say to myself is, well, they asked me to do it, so I'm gonna give them me. You asked me to be on it, I'm gonna give you me. Like, you have to walk in that. You have to believe it. If you don't believe it, who's gonna believe it? These are things I tell myself. I believe in self-affirmations. So I deal with these kind of thoughts by having those conversations with myself. And most people, the only thing they have on you is what I call time served, right? Knowledge is the great equalizer. Having an opinion, being able to articulate your thoughts, lending ideas, being a team player, being willing to jump in wherever you need to jump in, that's what's gonna keep you around. And I always remember that.
Yeah, I'll just say affirmations are great. Mine has always been, I will. Maybe not on your timeline and whatever, but I will. And I just keep saying that.
Richard, you want to?
I was just going to say, when you said overwhelmed, do you mean sometimes you have too much to do at one time, that it all hits you at once, that your responsibilities?
Yeah, a little bit of that,
Yeah.
but then also just like, I'm sure in the business, like, you were saying.
I will
you wear
address-
you wear multiple hats. So
Yeah.
you're like answering to people as well as trying to figure out if that's the best way
It can
to
drive
do
you
it.
crazy.
Exactly.
But I think you have to just do one thing at a time. Like,
Yeah.
just do one, because sometimes you're going to have everything happening at once. You just have to just do it on your one thing at a time.
My advice is pay electric last, because they're the last people to shut your lights off. Those are real life strategies.
Right. Right. We might
Of
do
all the
that.
things you gotta pay.
Prioritize.
In terms of like the imposter syndrome, I think that's real, and I think it affects folks that are don't have certain kinds of privileges walking in a room. And I think for me, especially I started DJing when no matter where I showed up, they said, I don't care if you're the DJ's girlfriend. I was not taken seriously. Thankfully, we're in a time where that's not an issue. I think creating safe community and creative community is very important. People that you feel safe with, colleagues, it goes back to how you got into the business. And I think that's important. And, I can be standing next to somebody that knows far less than me, but because of who they are and how they're perceived, they will get better opportunities sometimes. So I have to deal with that reality, because that reality is a reality. We know that women and non-conforming artists get booked much less, across the board, and that goes into every aspect of the business. So those are our realities, and those are the things that create some of this idea around imposter syndrome, because we're not being. It's not a meritocracy necessarily in every world, and you can push yourself through to a point, but that takes a lot of work, and that takes a toll. Okay, so
Thank you
let's
all.
go.
Hi everyone, good evening. Thank you so much for all the advice and stories. It is really helpful and inspiring, honestly. My name is Ana Melina. I'm a student at Lehman College. I'm majoring in music. And my question is, as a songwriter and singer, especially in the Latin music world, what do you recommend like internships to get started, and how do I find those resources?
Could I jump in with one thing I haven't mentioned that I think is, the Recording Academy, the Grammys, has Grammy
Yes.
U. That's a really, I think,
Yeah.
I love the organization, and they do a lot of very good work, and you should look into Grammy U on the Grammy.com website. And you can join, if you're a student, you can join it, and you can sort of let's talk about networking. You get some really crazy networking with that. But you get to you can find an internship through that, for one thing.
Are you registered with a PRO as a songwriter? A performing rights agency?
No, I'm just getting started with all of that.
All right, so at some point you'll register as a writer, and hopefully when you have publishing. And the two main organizations are performing rights organizations are ASCAP and BMI. And whether you join or not, they also have lots of workshops, things for songwriters, et cetera, resources. That's a starting point.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
it also sounds like you have a target. You know that you want to be in the Latin music. So I would, take some time and research conferences and labels
LMAC
and
every
artists
year in
and
New
study
York.
who the artists, managers, and agents are, and use that as sort of your guide to pinpoint what might work for you.
And I would also say, don't necessarily, that could be the music you want to make in the community you're most comfortable in, but don't pigeonhole yourself. Don't limit yourself to that. They want to do that to us, especially us brown people. You know what I'm saying? So I had real long locks past my waist. I'm a hip hop head. I purposely left Bad Boy so they didn't pigeonhole me as the black guy that does hip hop. I wanted to work on other types of music and learn how it's done. The thing is, learn as much as you can, then apply it to the thing that you want to do. If you pigeonhole yourself up front, you're going to limit your knowledge base. So I say get in where you can get in right now.
I will counter that with saying sometimes it's nice to be where you feel heard and understood before you go out and do what you need to do.
And if she loves the music of that style, but everybody's right. That's all right too.
There's
And
no
what
right
X is
answer.
saying,
There's no wrong answer.
It's true
know
to
yourself.
be open for whatever can be your to you.
There's in New York City, there's LMAC, Latin Music Conference that happens, was it July, August?
That's right. It's July.
July. So that's one thing that off the top of my head I think about.
I volunteered for them to get to know people.
Yeah,
LAMC in New York. Mhm.
Something like that always needs volunteers, and it's like a fixed a point of time, and you'll get to interact with lots of different kinds of artists.
Thank you.
Okay, this side.
Hi. My name is Monica, and I wrote down everything I was going to say. 'Cause-
Are you affiliated with a school or a program?
No, I'm a
Okay.
recent grad.
Okay.
I went to Lehman College, and my major was media communications.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to transition from TV to the music industry. And so I'm interested in the creative side, so music video visuals and award shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to know if anyone had any advice on how I could gain some type of experience and demonstrate work if I haven't really worked in the music industry, and I don't really have any connections to give me any advice or guide me.
I bet you there's a lot of people here that you could volunteer for already. If you want to work with the music industry, you can maybe find musicians to work, and especially your focus seems very specific, and your background in communications is vital. It's really important. And isn't that how you got started, Michelle, right? Your
Yep.
communication is so important. So I would say some of the general advice is research, look what interests you. Anyone else who's done more specific work with TV? You've done broadcasts, haven't you? TV and podcasting?
It's really about getting any experience you can get to get your foot in the door. I'm just telling you about what works for me. It ain't about this I disagree with this and that. For me, I'm just telling y'all what worked for me, right? And then you're gonna have to take all of this and figure out the path that works for you.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think you get your foot in the door where you can, learn what you can, again, network next to you, tell people what you're trying to do, and it'll intersect at some point.
And sometimes it's not the most black and white answer. For me, they basically told me, no, I can't take that internship that ultimately ended up propelling my career. And I was like, no, you're not going to tell me no. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to get into this building. And so just keeping that in mind and just keeping in mind what your end goal is. And there's going to be a million steps along the way to get there. But I mean, I don't know what you do right now, but there could also be people where you work that have maybe worked on the music side or have worked on music video production on the side that it's not in their day-to-day job, but getting to know the people you work with now, I'm sure they can be a resource too.
And one of the biggest growth industries in music is sync, which is putting music to visuals, So that
Having
is,
having a background in television it's a feather in your cap in the music industry.
I agree.
Yeah.
You
actually are coming with a lot on the table.
Yeah.
You have a lot to offer.
And we'll say Brick, just to pitch Brick since we're here, has community media classes that are free or low cost where you can access, equipment and gear, and it's a good place to just learn and meet people as well as you begin your journey.
You know what I'm gonna add too? It may be good for you to look at production companies that do like music videos.
Yeah.
Because they get outsourced by record labels, and that can be your way in as well,
Absolutely.
like working for directors.
Actually, for Spotify, a friend of mine has a media company, and they do a lot of the live stuff for Spotify, and they get hired just to do online content. That's
Yep,
that's their whole job.
Exactly.
Is they go and they just film really quick, fast turnaround, and that's what they do. So just digging in a little deeper there. See, yes, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been blessed to have multiple my viral songs on Spotify as a composer. The one transparency, unfortunately, is needed across the board. We should know what the rate of the stream or the return of the stream is, and I think it should be based off the stock itself. But that's me personally. But I love the analytics. There's so many great things. But I'm hoping, will Spotify, or do you think there could be rights for composers and publishers and songwriters as well? Because the song itself comes from the songwriter and the composer. And not until streaming have we not been heard, you know? And I feel like I'm fighting a fight. I've been blessed, but it's also, I feel like I'm also standing on...
Can you say your name, sir?
My
and
name's
what-
Cass Weinbrun. I'm a award-winning, multi-million streamed. I'm Spotify composer, keyboardist, fighting for songwriter rights.
Check
With
them
a
out.
blessing.
What up, Cass?
Yes.
So the thing is, it goes back to the systems that are in place, right? And the content holders and the rights holders. These systems are in place, right? We have to pay the rights holders. Then it's up to the individual deals that people have. What I want you to check out, though, is a site we put up called Loud and Clear.
Yes.
Go to
Well, of
loudandclear.com.
course, and sound on as well. I'm on soundboard as
Exactly.
well. I'm fighting
So
for
you,
this.
so you
Button
up on it.
fragmentation
It's-
is wrong.
Yeah.
We have to.
So, because that's the problem, because these rates aren't set by us. We're just following the rates that have already been set
and
by
they
the government.
keep getting renegotiated each
Right.
time, and
Yeah.
it's the problem again of who owns the IP, and the system itself is structured around who owns the intellectual property.
Yep.
But I'm the composer. Like I've
Yeah.
been blessed by God to have a viral song. I
Mm-hmm.
think itself, there's if Spotify paid directly. Like Instagram's doing that via the bonus program. It's not like it can't work.
Well,
Yeah.
Instagram is pulling back on that now.
Yeah, but they're restarting it.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
they like, so it's the
It
systems
keeps
in place
changing.
that make it
The,
tough.
the house always wins. That's
Have
the
you gotten
sad
involved
part.
with advocacy, like with
Yes,
in-
human artistry campaign just launched, which
Okay.
is really exciting, utilizing AI because the power of Uzo.ai and other AI aggregators, we can see all the rates, but still the rights,
I know it's something we do with the Recording Academy too.
Yes.
Is the advocacy committee, which I'm on, but
yeah, me too.
Sound Exchange, and you have to just keep an eye on. You have to keep an eye on it. The artist always has to keep an eye on it, though.
Yeah.
It's not new.
Richard,
That's nothing
can you
new.
explain
Wait a minute,
what-
being ripped off is nothing new.
Yeah,
no,
I
but,
mean-
but the stream rates, but the Spotify showing the
Richard,
streams
can we
is
just say
incredible.
what Sound Exchange is? It's
Sound
another-
Exchange collects like ASCAP and BMI
Yeah.
for broadcasts. They
It's
collect
digital.
for digital distribution. Yeah. And we need to always be on them to make sure that we get our
Yeah.
distribution.
And a lot of times the technology is ahead of the reality.
Yes.
It's always catching
Exactly.
up. When pandemic happened
Yeah. Well
and we
said.
started live streaming, DJs were getting cut off midstream because technically we're not supposed to DJ other people's music, except if you're D-Nice. So that was like, the technology didn't catch up to it. So, that things don't always happen linearly. They just kind of happen. Innovation comes faster than rules, laws, or any of that. Right on this side. Say your name and your affiliation.
Hi, my name is Doran. I go to SUNY Purchase. I'm a singer, producer, trumpet player, music video director. My question goes back to the conversation about how there's like 100,000 songs released a day and just like breaking through all of the noise that's happening. Do you guys feel like there's a best platform to market music on? And on top of that, do you feel like submitting music to blogs and through like platforms like Submit Hub is like an effective way to like get your music out to other people?
I mean, I'll say when I first started at Atlantic and I was doing publicity, that was one of my like core jobs as an assistant was submitting to all of those blogs. So even the major labels are doing that for their artists. But yeah, I mean, you definitely can talk more about what platform. For me as an agent, when I'm looking for talent to sign, it's not one platform or the other. It's an all-encompassing package. So I think just putting as much out there as possible and covering every base is gonna give you the biggest return.
I agree. You got to perform. You got to be out there. You got to try to get on blogs. You got to talk to your homie, and you got to have your homie talk to somebody. You got to go on Spotify for artists and submit to the playlist and hope that they get to. I mean, it's just you got to try every avenue possible to get it out there. That's just what you have to do because it's never the same for anybody. Like she says, when you work at a label, everything that's signed to a label is not going to pop off. 90% of it fails for signed artists. So you just got to work every
When we say fail,
avenue.
though, it doesn't mean the art fails. It just means the
The commerce.
The commerce fails.
commerce.
You have to do
Commerce side.
everything. You have to first make the best art you can make.
Yes.
The
That's
best
right.
music you can possibly make. You put all your blood into it. Then you do everything you can possibly do in the world to get it out there.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
and there's no one answer. I mean, your art is like, your audience is your audience, the kind of music you make. You have to sort of follow a strategy that works for you. Find blogs that, if you are going to submit, and there's endless amounts, find the ones that have the most synergy. Think about, like, where would you want to see yourself? The music business is all about sounds like. Every time I get a promo, sounds like. Unfortunately, as an artist, you never want to sound like anybody else, but those are shortcuts. And those are things that get you forward, So you have to sort of think about it. And we're limited on resources, so, if you can't do 1,000, do 10, do 5, And then we have, unfortunately, our last question on this side.
Thank you so much for speaking with us today. My question's for you, Xavier.
Name and affiliation, sorry.
My name's Nakul. I'm an artist and a graduate from the NYU Music Business Program as well. And my question is to you because it has to do with AI and music to some extent. There was a lot of fear in 2019 when I saw a song created from scratch in, I think, 15 seconds. I've come a long way from then. I don't fear it. I understand how much power it can have to the creation process. But the position that you're in, which is, I think you just spoke about how Spotify has an AI-powered DJ that's going to kick in, and it's changing and making the user experience phenomenal. So when you come across such incredible ideas, you being someone who is, I think, a strong advocate for the creator and the musician, how do you create that balance of trying to understand and saying, okay, this might be a negative effect, or there isn't one? I just wanted your perspective on it.
We talk about it. We talk about what's good. I don't know how I feel about music created by AI. Like, what I'm doing is a voice model created by a human. So for me, it's about human inputs into the creative process. Machines will never, in my opinion, replace the human spirit. So for me, like, why I'm excited about DJ, that project, is because I inserted my DNA into it. I trained the voice model. It's my personality. It's my word choices. No one's telling me how to sound like
X, could you, for a second, could you unpack what exactly happens with the... just for a
what
second.
it is. Like, so if you don't know, DJ is a new feature that just rolled out on Spotify actually 4 weeks ago this week. So what you do is on the home page, click on the music tab, and there's a DJ icon that you click on. What DJ does is becomes your personalized AI DJ for everybody. So everything that's recommended is based on how you already listen, but it's DJ'd by me. So I introduce myself by name, Xavier, what's up? My friends call me X, and it sounds exactly like me. So this is AI. You're gonna think it's a recording, but it's not. So we used AI to be able to scale my personality and then personalize it for you. So it's using 3 things. This ultra realistic voice model, that's AI. Then it's using the AI of algorithms and the
To
personalization.
figure out what songs it's going to
which is
recommend
also,
for you.
which human input
Recommendation.
is in that too. So our music editors
Yeah.
contribute to that, right?
Yeah.
And data curators.
Data
and
curators, which is what I
like
used
the
to
job
do.
that you used to have. And then the third piece is how the words are generated in terms of what the DJ says. So text, so it's text to voice. So it sounds like literally that I'm DJing specifically for you. So it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
So if you don't like the set of songs, I give you fun facts about how you listen, fun facts about the artist story. So it's increasing discoverability for people.
And the commercial says it. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
you were feeling this way in the summer. You were in
Yeah.
a tropical mood. So that's the product.
Yeah.
But I think the deeper question is like your personal, and you're saying that in terms of being the artist and being
Yeah.
the voice module. It's like your feelings are.
So for me, it's exciting because it gave me an additional opportunity as a creator, and I can see all the possibilities for all the different creators out there, how we can work with artists. My last meeting before I left and came out here was just about how much more we're going to be able to integrate artists into the process. So I think that part is cool. What's scary for me is just the idea when you're talking about music generated by AI. This is not what DJ does. So this is just the concept of AI usage in general that we as a company are going to have to deal with at some point, and conversations are being had now. And this goes to the point you made about technology being ahead of the laws and the systems that are in place. Because what we don't want to happen is that human creators aren't getting paid for their art. And there's already different standards. For example, a children's book written by a human creator, but has AI generated art. What's protected is what was written by that writer, right? What's not protected under the law right now is the art in that book generated by AI. Is that right? I don't think it is, but that's what the law says right now. So those are the things I get concerned about, and these are the conversations that I have and the conversations that we're having. So for me, it's always about creator first, and how can the creator live off of their art and opportunities for creators.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Peace.
All right. Well, that concludes our panel, and if some of the panelists are available time-wise, I'm going to stick around. And I just want to thank everybody.
Thank
That
you.
was a robust conversation.
Great job.
Thank you. Thank you for Center of Communications and Brook. Brook is awesome. The classes are awesome. They're very accessible. And thank you for all of you. And yeah, anything else? That's
Peace.
about it.